Hey guys, I'm back with another OLJ Q&A. About a little over a month ago, I think, I reached out on Facebook and Twitter and asked for your organizational related questions that you might have for me. And I got so many, and I answered some from Facebook, but the video got really long, so I said I would come back in about a month or so and answer the Twitter questions I got. And I'm doing that today. I'm sort of in between projects, and today was a family-oriented week. We have family in town, and there's lots of parties and stuff for the holiday, 4th of July holiday, so it kind of works out well to do the questions. So I printed them out. I have, I think, 6 questions from Twitter to answer, and I'm gonna go ahead and get started. So the first question comes from Joanne, who asks, how to keep everything so organized? How do you cope if something doesn't work out? Okay, so keeping organized is easier when you are organized to begin with, if that makes sense. So it's easier to keep to an order or an organization of something when you've already implemented a system that has worked for you. If you find that it's not keeping up, it's probably not actually working for you. Maybe it looks the way you want it to look, but it's not functioning right, because for something to truly work, organizationally speaking, it should function for you in a way that's, you know, relatively easy to maintain. Or even if it's not easy to maintain, it's something that you want to maintain, so you make the effort. And if you're not maintaining it, it probably means on some level that it's not really functioning for you. So my whole thing with like flexible organization, being able to like change things up and move things around and do overhauls and not get too fixated on having things look a certain way or be a certain way. Just be realistic about how things are going to function for you, what kind of time you have to pick up around the house or whatever it is in your drawers, or keep your desk neat at work or whatever. You have to be realistic about that and kind of make that work for you. So that's what works for me. I spend a good chunk of time every day picking up, but because my house is, you know, it's not perfectly organized, but it's pretty organized in most places. I'm human, of course, and the whole thing isn't perfectly organized at all times. I'm human, just like, you know, everyone else. I have little places here and there that aren't always exactly the way I want them, but that kind of, you know, I always have something to work on, and that sort of fuels me creatively and, you know, just in terms of like focus and drive. But having things most of the time in a way that it's easy for me to put them back, or it's a way that I want to put them back, helps me keep on top of organization. And like I said, I know if something's not working if I'm not keeping up with it. How do you cope if something doesn't work out? I change it. It's like, okay, doesn't work out, so let's move on. Let's try something else. Let's, you know, trial and error kind of basis here. Next question comes from Sarika, who asks, if your room looks like a bomb hit it, what is the best way to find the motivation to sort it out? Where do I start? I've talked about this before. For me personally, breaking things up into smaller pieces makes an overwhelming project seem a lot less daunting. So for instance, with my most recent series, I'm sitting in my office right now, I did my office organization series. I showcased my office organization in parts, and I worked through the room in those parts. So I broke things down, you know, to filing cabinet, then my desk drawers, and then the desktop, and then the cables, and then my shelves, and then the closet. And then, so breaking things down helps a lot for me. If it was like, if I was younger, if this was my like teenager or early 20s, like my solo room, like if I only had a room and not a whole house and I wasn't married and all that, I would start by cleaning whatever's on the floor first, and that would usually give me a hint as to where to start in my room. Like if there was like a lot of, I mean, I was always pretty neat as a kid, but I'm thinking of like other people I know who I used to organize some of my friends' rooms for them when they wanted help. You know, like one of my friends when I was younger had a lot of jewelry and a beautiful jewelry box, but she could never keep it organized, and I would like help her sort through it and stuff. And we would know that the jewelry box was something to organize because there'd be jewelry kind of around her room and she wanted it in her box. And that's how we knew where to start, if that makes sense. So that's how I would break things down if I just had a room to work with. And you know, even if I had more than a room, if I'm just working on one space, break it down into bits that seem manageable to you. And really only you are the one who knows what seems manageable. So if you can only really think that you can handle 15 minutes a day, then just do 15 minutes a day, but do it every day and make it a commitment, and you will see the change. And as things change, it will motivate you, and it's sort of like a snowballs into self-motivation. Emily asks, how do you get the motivation to tackle large projects such as the office? Well, that's a very similar question to what Sarika asked, but it's more about motivation. So I guess what Sarika asked was how I break things down, or how I, make it more manageable. What Emily asked is about motivation. For me, I've always been very motivated, organizationally speaking. I like being in neat, functional, orderly spaces. I feel cluttered on the inside when there's clutter around me. Now, one person's version of clutter is totally different to somebody else. Somebody might look at my videos, at my spaces, and be like, oh, you have so much stuff, it's so cluttered, how do you function, blah blah blah. To me, this is not cluttered, but that is a personal thing. I like having little decorative items and colorful things and bins out in the open and all that out. Some people will go for a really minimalistic approach, so you kind of have to figure that out. But to me, having a space that's clutter-free in terms of what I define clutter as, and just functions, that is what motivates me. And sometimes it's hard, especially when you're working with a daunting project, to get over the hump of feeling overwhelmed to feeling motivated. And that's where breaking things down into pieces really helps. But really, truly, the motivation, like the deep down motivation for me, is that I just feel better when things are neat and tidy and orderly. And that is my number one, that's the number one thing that's gonna push me to get things done. Amanda asks, favorite items or iPhone apps for time management? Good time management is a hard thing for me to conquer. I think it's a hard thing for anybody to conquer, Amanda. It's really, everybody, regardless of what you do for a living or what your at home or social life is like, you have a busy plate. It's your life. It's busy to you. So for me personally, things that help me with that are my file of facts. I have my daily to-dos in my calendar. This also helps me keep on top of my calendar. When I slack off on using this, I really miss it. I do also, I don't know where my phone is, I do also use my iCal app on my phone, because I don't want to carry this big. This is my file of facts, by the way. I did a recent video on this, maybe a couple months ago. I'll put a link to it below, but carrying this around would be kind of a pain just to do my regular things. If I were going to an office or something, I would definitely take this with me, or school or something. But since I work from home and I'm really, when I'm out of the house, it's really just to run errands or to see friends or family or things like that. I don't want to carry that around with me. So I have my iCal app on my phone, which just helps me keep track of appointments and social events and things like that. So when I'm out on the go and I need to make an appointment or set up a meeting or whatever, a thing with a friend, I don't have to, have my big file of facts with me. And then when I get home, I just write down whatever I scheduled that's in my iCal. About once a week, I kind of sync my calendars. It's more of a manual sync. But that's the other thing with iCal, because it uses the iCloud or the cloud or whatever. I don't know. I have all Mac stuff, so it syncs up to, I have 2 computers and my iPad, so they're all on the same, my 4 devices all have the same iCal, and they sync up real nice. And I use, you can have more than one calendar on iCal, so I have a calendar for just me, and one for just Dawn, and one for me and Dawn, and one for family, and one for family travel, and things like that. So I can keep on top of things that way, and it's all color-coded, which is nice. And I color-coded my file of facts as well, which you could see in that video. But those are really the things that I use. I also love sticky notes. I have so many sticky notes, you guys know, but I actually really use them. I like making lists on sticky notes, especially lists for the store, to Target or something, on a list type of sticky note. I'll pull one out, this type of thing. So I'll write my grocery list or whatever, and then I can just take this off, I'll throw it in my purse, and then when I get to the store, I can just stick this to the handlebar of the grocery cart or whatever, the shopping cart, and the list is right in front of me, good to go. So those are kind of my favorite tools, I would say, between my file of facts and my iPhone with the iCal and sticky notes. Those are my favorite tools. Crafty Cuban asks, how do you go about tackling each organizational project for your house? Well, my main thing is to just pick one project at a time. It's very, like once you start getting into an organizational project, at least for me in my experience, once I start really getting into something like my office, it kind of really inspires me to work on the other things. But when I'm working on such a big space that takes a lot of time, I don't want to get distracted by working on something else really fast. Or like at the same time. Sometimes it's hard to resist. I did kind of work on my linen closets a little bit here and there while I was working through my office, but I try to kind of separate things so I don't get distracted, because I find that sometimes I'll get so distracted that I won't go back to the original project until much later, and it helps me to be working on one thing at one time to really like live in the space and really think about what I want for it and not get distracted by other projects. So really just tackling one thing at a time helps me. But with the motivation thing, like once I get something going and I get motivated, I'll have some ideas about another space. That's where my project notebook comes in hand, my project management notebook, which I also showed, I think, in that File of Facts video, I'm pretty sure. And I will go write notes and I jot down ideas for the things that I've been thinking of, so I can get them down and not forget about them, but I can still be working on just the one thing and not jump to too many things at once. So that's kind of how I tackle my house projects. Last question comes from Sydney, and Sydney asks, what motivates you to keep things organized? Oh, I kind of already answered that question. I'm sorry guys, I put aside these questions a long time ago and I guess I didn't edit through them before I started to answer them. I do everything on the fly. I don't prepare any of my content beforehand. I just start filming. I already answered this question, Sydney, but I'll say it again. I just feel better. I feel lighter, I feel less cluttered on the inside, and to me that is all the motivation I need. It's just more inviting for me personally to be in my own home when it's neat and tidy, and I'm not like embarrassed by it. Like when my family or our friends come over, I'm happy to share with them. It's a comfortable, clean space. And that's what I want my family and friends to feel at home in my home and not cluttered by my clutter, if that makes sense. So I love having an organized home that's flexible and fluid and can move. It's not too stiff. It's not, it's comfy. It's homey, and I love my house and I love my home. And even when I'm going someplace really exciting like Disney World or somewhere, Paris or something, I want to come home. I still want to come home, like at the end of a week-long trip, even somewhere that's like super exciting, because I love my house, because I keep it the way that makes me feel happy. Your space is an important thing, and space is such an important thing to us as humans, and taking care of your space is basically just taking care of yourself. So I think that's a good way to look at it for motivation. Anyway, I'm sorry those were kind of double questions. I should have read them over before I did this video, but if you guys like this, maybe in a couple months I will do another two-parter like this with the Facebook answers and Twitter answers, maybe in the fall. Do them like seasonally, so I did like kind of like summer, and then the next time I'll do fall. If you guys are interested, let me know in the comments. I will be back with new projects soon. Like I said in my last video, my office tour video, I'm taking on a lighter load this summer, but I will still be posting as regularly as possible. I might skip a Friday here or there, but I have lots planned and I am excited to share with you. So stay tuned for more fun stuff. I did post a blog post today on my craft carousel here in my office, so if you're interested, check that out. I'll pop a link below, and I will see you guys real soon. In the meantime, I hope you're having a wonderful summer, and stay cool, stay safe. I'll see you soon. Happy organizing, guys. Bye. Thanks for watching.